stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If you please call the roll.
Councilmember Klint. Here. Councilmember Manning.
Here.
Councilmember Denner.
Here.
Councilmember Geisler.
Here.
Councilmember Johnson.
Here.
Councilmember Wells.
Here.
Mayor Cook.
Here. Thank you. The first item on our agenda this evening is to adopt this evening's agenda.
Your Honor,
Councilor Manning.
move adoption of the agenda.
Second. Motion by Manning, second by Johnson. Any discussion, corrections? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And the agenda is adopted. And the very first thing on our agenda this evening is to welcome Anoka County Commissioner Scott Schulte over to the podium. One of the perks of being an elected official is you get to say, hey, I'd like to come and visit the council, and here you are.
Thank you, Mayor Cook, council members, staff. Thanks for having me. It's good to be back. I don't get in this room often enough anymore. I'm here tonight to present to you a proclamation that I would ask for your support of. You should have the proclamation in front of you. I believe it was sent to you last week, maybe on Friday. That proclamation is about Met Council reform. Basically changing the principles of governance. There's been a group, a consortium essentially of cities and counties that has worked together to come up with these principles. I'm going to read the statement of belief first because it's short. I think it's concise to the point of what we were working for. The Metropolitan Council, due to its taxing and policy authority, should be accountable to regional constituency of those impacted by its decisions. It should not operate as a state agency, as it does in its current form, answerable to only one person. Simply stated, the Met Council is fully appointed by one person. They are coterminous with that person, and that's our governor. Our governor is elected. He appoints all members of the council. Their terms all expire when he leaves office. As constituents of the Met Council in Anoka County and in Coon Rapids, we feel that if we disagree with something they're doing, if we disagree with their direction, that we should have an opportunity to change that, particularly if they're taxing us. We should have some input. We don't have that now. So as we worked through these, we have listed before you our 6 principles of what we think should change at the Met Council. Of that, we think there should be at least a preponderance of elected officials, perhaps a county commissioner, 6, 7 county commissioners maybe, one from each county. We think that cities should be represented. They should have members that are appointed, whether mayors or city council members, appointed to that body by metropolitan cities, or metro cities, I believe the group is called, of which you are a member. I could go on for a very long time. I don't want to do that. I want to answer questions for you as to why or why not you might not be interested in doing this. I can tell you I also handed out this evening on your dais a sheet listing the cities in Anoka County that so far have taken up this resolution and passed it, and cities from around the metro region. I can tell you that the 4 counties that have adopted it is Anoka, Carver, Dakota, and Scott. Each county boards have unanimously passed this resolution that's before you. In Dakota County, Farmington, Hampton, Mendota Heights have approved it. In Carver County, the cities of New Germany, Chanhassen, Watertown, Mayer, Chaska, Cologne, Hamburg, Norwood Young America, and Victoria have all supported and passed this resolution. Forest Lake in Washington County. In Scott County, Jordan, New Prague, Shakopee, Prior Lake, and Elko New Market. In Anoka County, we have Columbus, Centerville, Bethel, Lino Lakes, St. Francis, Oak Grove, Andover, Blaine, Ham Lake, Now Then, and Ramsey. In Hennepin County, Loretto, St. Bonifacius, Greenwood, Mound, and Plymouth. Of those, they were all unanimous. Every city council member in every city, every county board member in every county voted to support this resolution. There is an asterisk there that I somehow didn't get on the sheet, but in the city of Ramsey, they passed the resolution with some slight modifications. They took exception to some of the terms, and to be honest with you, I don't have their resolution in front of me, so I can't tell you what those are. With that, I will stand for questions. I would ask you to thoughtfully and respectfully consider passing this resolution to add your voice to those of the many who stand before the Met Council, before the legislature, and before the governor, asking for some changes that can benefit taxpayers in our region.
So, Commissioner Schulte, will there be anything this year that will be done with this?
Your Honor, council members, yes, it's Representative Albright has a bill in front of the House currently that has gone through a number of committees. I can't even list them all right now, but and that has gone through many undulations and many changes. It reflects, I think, currently 4 of the 6 principles here, so it's a step in the right direction. Our goal was to get resolutions together in a timely fashion so we could meet in front of some of those committees and show the unanimity of this support from our region. We have given them this list, they have this. I would love to add Coon Rapids to it, maybe for further discussions this year, or maybe we'll do it again next year, depending on what happens. Obviously, any change to the Met Council can't be brought about by the Met Council. The only one that controls this is the legislature and the governor. They have to agree on a plan, the governor has to sign off on it. Obviously, the governor's signing away a lot of power. We think we're in a prime position to have that done this year. The governor knows this could be a legacy item for him. He knows that he could bring about better governance in our region. I'll go one step further. I didn't bring this up, but there are 442, I believe, metropolitan council organizations throughout the country, also called MPOs, Metropolitan Planning Organizations. There is only one that is fully appointed, and that's ours. There's 14 MPOs in the state of Minnesota. Every one of them is elected except ours. We think that we don't understand why we have to be the anomaly. We know Portland, we know Seattle, we know Denver, we know many of them have massive transit systems similar to ours. They have great housing situations like ours. They have sewers, they have roads, they have multiple cities just like we do. And they function wonderfully with elected officials. It's important to note too that the elected officials on this body would not be directly elected to these seats. That's important because most MPOs that have directly elected officials are having troubles. They create problems when they're directly elected to those positions. So we think somebody elected to a local seat, a mayor, a council member, a county commissioner, is closest to the people. When they make a decision on that Met Council, people can get to them. They can talk to them. They can change their minds. They can work with them to get the right thing done. And if they can't work with them, they can get them unelected from their local seat and elect somebody different.
Something you said, Commissioner Schulte, you said the governor might, you referred to it as better governance. Does the governor consider this better governance? Because he would have to sign off on it, I would imagine.
The governor would have to sign this. It's the only way it'll change.
Right.
The governor is in agreement that the Met Council right now lacks credibility. He's in agreement, and he wants to fix that. There's a number of different avenues to do it. We think this is the best avenue. This is the best way for the Met Council to get its credence back, to really be accepted by the entire region for everything that they do, whether it's transportation, transit, roads, whether it's public housing, which they're big into, sewers, water, everything they do. We think that they're going to have a lot more credibility once the governor changes this. Again, we're the only one with appointeds. He knows that. The Federal Highway Administration, who gave us the exemption, this is going to get really detailed and I don't want to do that, but Federal Highway is who gave us the exemption to have an appointed Met Council. Senator Dave Durnberger requested that. That exemption was supposed to be very temporary until we had time to put together an election. And it's never changed. The Federal Highway now came down after many requests from our group that's been meeting for over 2 years. Federal Highway came down and sent a letter to the governor and to the Met Council saying, you should really change. You should be a preponderance of elected officials. But we can't mandate that. They can, but they won't. And but that recommendation has come down from Federal Highway. If Federal Highway suddenly said, look, your MPO is no longer a legal constituted MPO because you don't have elected officials, if they said that, we would lose all our Federal Highway dollars, which would be devastating to the city, to the county, and to the states. So we're not pushing for that. We're not pushing for Federal Highway to shut down our Met Council. It's also important to note, we believe in the Met Council. We believe in metro regional governance. We just don't believe it's put together properly.
Any other questions?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Johnson?
I did have some questions just on clarification on the first three principles that you have in the reform package. And I want to preface this by saying that I'm generally very supportive of the work that you all have been doing on this. So I want to thank you for that and thank the other members of the county board for taking leadership on this issue. Number one is a majority of the members of the Metropolitan Council shall be elected officials appointed from cities and counties within the region. Okay, I understand that, I think. I'm not sure what the scheme would look like here, but it's a statement of a principle. It's not the final decision on how it's actually going to work ultimately and how it gets worked out. 2 and 3 refer to metropolitan cities and metropolitan counties. Metropolitan cities shall directly control the appointment process for city representatives to the Metropolitan Council. Metropolitan counties shall directly appoint their own representatives to the Metropolitan Council. When we use the phrases metropolitan cities and metropolitan counties, are we referring to the city, all of the cities within the region as being metropolitan cities, or are we referring just to Minneapolis and St. Paul?
Mayor, Councilmember Johnson, we are referring to the 7-county metro area that is governed by the Metropolitan Council.
Right.
And the term metropolitan cities, although capitalized,
Right.
is really a generic term for all the cities within the metro area. It is my assumption that that would happen through the group Metro Cities,
Right.
because it is definitive of the majority of the metro cities. Now, when you get to the metropolitan counties, will directly appoint their own. There is no metropolitan county group. So we would, as you read further down in the principles, each county would appoint one member from their board to be a Met Council member.
Okay, that answers my question, and thank you.
Thank you. And I would just finish up with, really you were right, these are guiding principles. This was not designed to be the plan.
Right.
We know that even if we put together a plan, it would be totally adulterated once it got to the legislature and changed completely before it came out of a conference committee, and probably changed again when the governor puts the ink pen to it. So for that reason, we decided broad principles that accomplished our goal were much better placed.
Any other questions? Anything else to share with us this evening, Commissioner?
No, thank you again for having me, and I really am pleased that you're willing to at least look at this and look forward to a response either way. I know it's a tough decision, and I respect your decisions. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. All right, and we have another presentation. We have somebody here from the Crooked Lake Area Association of Lake, or not an association of lakes, Crooked Lake Area Association. Area of Lake.
Well, Mayor and council members, I want to thank you for a few minutes of your time.
This
This
name
will
and
be a
address.
very friendly presentation. My name is Steve Sabinski. I'm a member of the association, Crooked Lake Area Association, but I also have been staring at that, where my house is located on that banner behind Councilman Johnson. And I just want to say and have it be on record that when you're tired of these banners, I will pay you anything for that. My purpose tonight is very simple. Make you aware of make you more aware of our Association for the Lake and what our purpose is. Thank you for your participation financially and actually in many other ways too in the last couple of years in establishing ordinances for us. And finally, to answer any questions that you might have, but primarily those other two. And so I'll begin to just describe briefly why we exist and what we do. Goes back to the days when farmers loosely organized and did things for the lake, but it's evolved to what is now a 501c3 nonprofit organization so that we may receive dues and other donations from other sources to help us, which would be then tax deductible. So So that helped us to qualify. That's within the last 2 years that we've become that status. We exist to manage the lake in a couple of ways. Primarily, we find ourselves managing the water quality and trying to do the battle with invasive aquatic species, namely milfoil, but there are others too. And so it's something that takes a while to learn and to understand, and it's really difficult to manage. That's probably our main activity, and we have a board of 10 members. It's on the last page of the newsletter. I just thought I would point out to you that they're all volunteers, and our president, who would like to have been here tonight, Gary Nearson, is actually conducting one of those 10 annual board meetings that we have. At the moment we're speaking, we actually collided in our coordinating, so he would have been here, but so we do make decisions for fiduciary responsibilities pertaining to managing the lake. And that leads me to, well, let me say where we collect funds. We will receive funds for the lake treatments from dues that are voluntarily given, but we do have an annual due, and all the Lakeshore members are encouraged to be a part of that. We have a high participation of about 80%, which is really good compared to other lakes. And then we receive them from outright donations from corporations that are willing to do matching grants for employees. We do apply for grants, and we do get some. We're happy about that. And then finally, and perhaps most significantly, both cities of Coon Rapids and Andover participate in a very generous way. And that leads me to perhaps the main purpose of being here tonight, and that is to thank you for that. Describing it, the amount of money is a matter of public record, and it is also, by the way, as a nonprofit, we are responsible to present an audited financial statement every year. Anyone here is welcome if that helps you in your decisions. I'm kind of leading up to something we're facing this year. In the past, and I've lived there for 17 years, we're on the lake, and in the past our treatments have been very inexpensive, but the weed problem has grown to a point where it may reach the maximum of what we're all of those sources can provide this year. And that, by the way, for the cities, if you're probably all on top of this, but we had set a percentage for both Andover and Coon Rapids not to exceed a certain amount, which is $4,000. This year will be a $4,000 year. And to describe it briefly is that the DNR is, I could put it like this, I think they're tired of seeing the way we're doing it and not having the effects on controlling the milfoil problem the way that they would like to see it. And they're having this problem statewide. And so they've actually adopted us this year, imposing on us a lake-wide treatment that they want to experiment with. And basically, if this doesn't work, then they're kind of going to go back to a very let it happen mode, because they get a lot of pressure. They get a lot of pressure from outside groups saying just dumping herbicides in the lake is not acceptable to them year after year with no results. So this year they're really on top of it. We're going to supervise everything we do, and they're going to do a whole lake treatment. Only thing is, they're making us pay for it. So.
Shocking. An unfunded mandate?
I'm also a minister, so I'm praying about that, so the Lord will provide. We'll just say it like that. But we would like to make both the city of Coon Rapids and Andover know two things. We appreciate the contributions that have been made willingly to keep, I think, a very beautiful lake in the city up to the way it is. And along with that, to say that I'm sure we'll reach the 4,000. That will be, I'm certain that we'll probably drain all of our resources as well to accomplish what I just described. That said, for consideration at another time, we would like to maybe have you just be open to the idea that this on a one-time year basis, we hope. Otherwise, what I described with the DNR, they're not going to let us treat this much ever again. So I believe it's safe to say it's a one-time investment. We may need to ask if that could be exceeded this year, that can be discussed with our president at another time. Anyway, thank you all, and if you had any questions about anything that I just covered, no one's here to answer them. I'm just kidding. Make it simple if you have a question.
Anybody have any questions?
Great. Thank you
Well, thank
again.
you very much, and
Thank
thank you for all the efforts you go to preserve such a great resource in Coon Rapids.
Thank
It's
you
a
so
great
much.
asset for us. All right. Next item on our agenda is approval of the minutes from our April 5th meeting.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Wells, second by Demmer to approve the minutes of April 5th, 2016 City Council meeting. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And those are approved. Next, we're on to our consent agenda. We have 4 items on our consent agenda this evening. The first one is to accept the 2015 Community Development Annual Report. And will this be on the website or is
Mr.
it
Mayor
already?
And council, yes, it will be on the website after this evening.
Okay, yeah, very nice. It's like 12 pages about what's been going on around town and commercial developments. And it's nice. So we will be officially accepting the 2015 Community Development Annual Report. And next item is to approve the final payment for project 15-6 sanitary sewer lining. And this will be approval of change order and final payment to Instituform Technologies USA in the amount of $102,653.34 for project 15-6 sanitary sewer lining. We must be having another one of these coming up. We're not gonna get it all done for 100,000, right?
2016 is where we believe we'll finish this year, and that's already underway. This is for 2015. Oh, final payment for 2015.
Oh, thank you, final payment for 2015, got it, thank you. I glossed right over that, and I was thinking sewer lining, we've gotta be getting near the end. All right. The next item is to approve the agreement between the City of Coon Rapids and the Coon Rapids North Star Lions Club to provide concession services at the Sand Creek Park Athletic Complex and to authorize the appropriate staff to execute such agreement. And last item on the consent agenda is to adopt Resolution 16-50 to accept the training and education grant from the Minnesota Board of Fire Training and Education and to amend the 2016 budget. And there's just a little quick descriptor in there. The Coon Rapids Fire Department has secured 2 separate grants and will use these funds to support their missions for citizens. The fire department will spend $2,500 towards a 2-day seminar on officer training and fire ground tactics. And the department will use the other grant of $600 toward the registration fee for the Fire Department Instructors Conference. And that is everything on our consent agenda.
Your Honor,
Counselor Johnson.
move to accept, approve, and adopt the items in the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion by Johnson and a second by Geisler. Questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that motion carries. Next item on our agenda. Oh, we got the big gun here. I think we were gonna get Mr. Hanson.
We gave him the night off.
So we're having our annual public hearing on the city's stormwater pollution prevention program, SWPPP.
SWIP.
This is the acronym, Mr. Mayor. We're full of SWPPPs and MS4s and MPCAs. I do not have any special PowerPoint for you this evening. I just wanted to highlight a few items with regard to this permit. The City of Coon Rapids being an MS4, as well as the county and most other large agencies.
there are requirements under a permit that we have to do on an annual basis, this being one of them. So within the memo, I've described some of the key criteria and things that we look at on an annual basis to make sure we're not only enforcing what we're supposed to be doing, but as well as watching what others are doing within our city, as we are kind of the de facto enforcement arm of the PCA. So not only are we responsible for what we do, but we're responsible for what people do within our community. So some of the highlights I'll point out to you is public education is certainly a large part of that. We have our stormwater pollution prevention plan on our city website. We do timely articles in all of the quarterly newsletters, whether it's fall, keep your leaves out, winter salt usage, those types of things. We partner with Coon Creek Watershed District. We've held tables during our summer in the cities and handed out information. So we do very well with regard to education, and we'll continue to improve. There's also a lot of training that goes into this, not only for city employees as they review and inspect other people's sites, but also in the preparation of those stormwater pollution prevention plans that are required for everything. So every one of our recon projects has to have a plan. Any one of our park projects has to have a plan. And those are reviewed not only internally as far as the design, but also through the Coon Creek Watershed District on some of the larger projects. So in addition to just the design of what we do, how we watch what others do, on larger projects, we do work with a consulting firm by which we require them to work directly with the applicant. And they perform the inspections on the site at their cost, which helps them because they have to get their own permit as part of this. So it covers us, it covers them at the same time. It's a cost that we pass directly to them as opposed to submitting an escrow with the city and having our staff go out and do that and taking our time and taking those responsibilities. So usually there's 2 or 3 of those on an annual basis where they're large enough that we work with them right through plan review and building permits, so they certainly understand that's the case. We're supposed to require up to 20% of our stormwater outfalls into creeks and channels. In 2015 we did 40. It's a total of about 230 total structures that are out there. In 2015 we looked at 95 of those, documented those inspections, did some corrective actions. Let's see, what else? Recon is a big part of that, so in addition to inspecting and completing and fixing up the things we find during those inspections, we look at every recon project in that way. So we'll add sump manholes as part of that. We'll correct catch basin infiltration areas where we're getting that inflow and infiltration to come in. We'll add catch basins to improve some of the localized flooding. So in addition to inspections, we also plan for that as part of our reconstruction projects. We're required to sweep twice a year, once in the spring, once in the fall. We believe we can do much better than that. We've identified certainly environmentally sensitive areas around Crooked Lake, around the major streams and creeks, also down along the river. So last year we swept 5 times in the spring and twice in the fall. We took roughly 9,000 yards of material out of the streets as part of this. I mean, 900 dump trucks that aren't going down our storm sewer and into our lakes and rivers. In addition to that, we televise and clean up to 10,000 feet last year we did, and mostly that was related to our recon projects. We televise them, we make sure they're in good condition. While we're there, we might as well fix them. And it's a little odd that in doing that, 10,000 feet of pipe, we pull out 50 cubic yards. But you sweep and you get 9,000 cubic yards. But it's still quite a bit that you're taking out of that stream, that river ultimately. And then finally, it's kind of preparing a capital improvement program. And again, that's part of our reconstruction program. Usually in the fall, we do a handful of private projects where we go clean out ditches, solve some localized flooding through wetland projects, other things like that. So about once a year in the fall, we do a program where we look at 3 or 4 separate projects. The rest of that is through our reconstruction. And because of the amount of infrastructure we do on an annual basis, we're really looking at 8 to 10 miles of streets that are out there. So it's a pretty significant endeavor that we do. With that, I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have. Just for the residents, you may see this nice little door hanger that gets placed. These typically happen in the summertime. If we notice grass clippings getting out into the curb and gutter, if we notice your leaves in the fall, we'll politely hang that on your door and ask that you kind of keep track of that. Hopefully it doesn't turn into a second and a third one or a code enforcement issue, but this is just something we try to do to not be confrontational about it, but rather just as a friendly reminder. So again, I'll stand for questions. It is a public hearing. I can also take a seat and see who comes up and be happy to answer their questions as well.
Sure. Any questions before we open the public hearing? Councilor Clint?
That little door hanger thing, if people in the neighborhood see people pushing their leaves or grass clippings just into the street, can they call you and
Councilmember
let
Clint,
you know?
yes, absolutely. And again, we'll try to work with them first and not be heavy-handed about it, but there are those that need that continuous reminder, and everything we do to try to control that only helps everybody in the long run. So yes, absolutely, that's something they can do.
Well, if there's nothing else, I will open up the public hearing for the annual stormwater public hearing as required for our MS4 permit and SWPPP. Anybody here to address the for the public hearing? All right, seeing none, I will close the public hearing. And that was all we had to do was run a public hearing. We have no motions or adoptions?
That's correct. Just holding the public hearing, that's the last mark we put in. We'll complete our permit and get it submitted probably within the next month.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Hammer. All right. Item 9, vacation of drainage and utility easements, 3338 and 3352 116th Avenue. This is the property in town. The Planning Commission approved a request for subdivision exception for a lot line adjustment between these two properties. It was approved, and one of the conditions is the existing drainage and utility easements along the current lot line be vacated and new 5-foot easements be granted on either side of the new lot line. All utilities have been notified, and all have no objection to the vacation. And this is another one that requires a public hearing. So is there any other introduction we need before we open the public hearing? All right, with that, I will open the public hearing for vacation of drainage and utility easements 3338 and 3352 116th Avenue. Is there anybody here to address council? Hello. If you could just give us your name and address.
Mary Kaiser, 3338 116th Avenue Northwest. Mr. Mayor and council members, I'm just here to answer any questions you might have and encourage you to accept the vacating of the easement and creating a new one.
Good. Excellent. Thank you. Anybody have any questions for him?
Nope, pretty straightforward one.
We've looked at this a number of times now.
They say government is slow, but we can move a foot a year.
Anybody else here for the public hearing on that? Seeing none, we will close the public hearing.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to adopt resolution number 16-46, vacating the utility and drainage easements over portions of property located between 3338 and 3352 116th Avenue.
Second.
Motion by Geisler, second by Johnson. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that motion carries. And thank you for coming in. Item 10, we're considering a resolution number 16-52, awarding additional contracts for the Sand Creek building improvements. And we did not have all of the bids in when we were looking at this last time, and it looks like now we have a couple more. Mr. Himmer, is there anything you want to address with this, or?
No, Mr. Mayor, it was just the fire protection piece that came in slightly under what was expected, and there was a minor informality in the last go-around, so we wanted to clean that up just to make sure. So technically, under that contract C11, we're going to pay approximately $2,000 more, but you got to honor the system, and you got to make sure that everything's so. That's the recommendation.
Yeah.
Counselor Manning.
I move adoption of resolution number 16-52 as detailed.
Motion by Manning, second by Wells. Is that enough of it, Mr. Brody? Oh, good. Then I won't read it. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? And that motion carries. Next item for consideration, consider adoption of ordinance 2161, revising the allowed exterior building materials. This was introduced at our last council meeting, and it's just kind of cleaning up our exterior building codes. Does anybody have any, need a presentation, or are we good with this? Counselor Demmer.
I'll move adoption of ordinance 2161, revising the allowed exterior building materials.
Second.
Motion by Demmer, second by Geisler, and the rest of that is, and this is just for the multifamily, institutional, commercial, and industrial buildings. Any discussion? Counselor Demmer?
I like the changes that got put in. I think it's in a good spot now, so good job.
All right, any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that motion carries. We are now on to new business, and we have just, this is an introduction. Is there anything we want to talk about this evening? We've had a couple, okay, so first, this is item 12. Consider introduction of a proposed ordinance to allow chickens in Coon Rapids. Since this is not a zoning change, it does not trigger a public hearing. Although we have had several workshops and opportunities for folks to offer input, we will allow for additional public comment when we consider this for adoption at the May 3rd City Council meeting. So if there's something you feel you need to say about this, it'll be at the May 3rd Council meeting. You'll be given a little bit of time for that. There were a couple things that we were looking at cleaning up. Just some of the emails that I received was the language versus daily cleanup versus weekly or frequently or something. So there'll be a couple little tweaks we're looking at making in the next couple weeks.
That will be brought forward at the next council meeting, and we'll update what changes we make in the memo. Neither of the changes that we're discussing are substantial that would require an reintroduction of the ordinance, so we could go ahead as scheduled.
Perfect.
At the next council meeting.
All right, so with that, we're looking at introducing an ordinance regulating chickens by adding chapter 6-700 and introduce an ordinance to amend the non-domestic animal ordinance chapter 6-500. And if there's no other questions from council, I will consider that introduced. 13. I just realized you're here. Did you want to talk about this? No, we're just making sure that I don't mess this up when I'm reading it. Next item on the agenda is to consider introduction of an ordinance for native plantings and landscapes. And this is another thing that's kept our Sustainability Commission and our Planning Commission has also looked at this. And we're looking at introducing ordinance 8-500, revisions allowing native plantings and landscapes. And we will consider that introduced, and we will be looking at that on the next council meeting, May 3rd. Is there any questions from council on that? All right.
Mr. Mayor, public comment would be accepted at that time for this one as well?
Wasn't planning on it.
Well, I guess if,
Did we get a request for it?
to me, it's just, would be consistent with the earlier one if we have people who want to speak on native planting.
No.
Okay.
I mean, unless a preponderance of council would like us to open it up for public comment, I don't, I mean, we do a lot of introductions and adoptions with, with
Okay.
just the feedback we get by email and through staff. 14, next item on the agenda, consider adopting assessments for project 16-1 MSA street reconstruction. And this is for the project Evergreen Boulevard from 85th Avenue to the cul-de-sac, 90th Avenue from Evergreen Boulevard to Springbrook Drive, and 93rd Avenue from Evergreen Boulevard to Coon Rapids Boulevard.
Your Honor,
Counselor Manning.
I move adoption of resolution number 16-1 sub 12, adopting assessments for project 16-1.
Second.
Motion by Manning, second by Clint. Any discussion on that? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that motion carries. And more of the same, consider adopting assessments for project 16-2, another Minnesota State Aid street reconstruction project, and this is Mississippi Boulevard from Hanson Boulevard to Coon Rapids Boulevard.
Mr. Mayor,
Counselor Geisler?
I'll make a motion to adopt resolution 16-2 sub 12, adopting assessments for project 16-2.
Second.
Motion by Geisler, second by Johnson. Any discussion?
Mr. Mayor?
Counselor
I
Geisler?
just have one thing for Mr. Hemmer. When these come back, our note said that bids were already out since we approved those, and we should be seeing those probably at the May 3rd. At what point will residents be able to start to learn when the schedule of this work would happen, and how would that be communicated to the residents? Can we-
Yes, Councilmember Geisler, members of the council, I believe we open bids on this project. If it's not this Friday, it's next Friday. Once we have a contractor on board, we'll conduct a pre-construction meeting, at which time they'll lay out their schedule for the year. At that point, then, we will notify individuals with, I believe we send a postcard or a mailing, as well as we put weekly updates on our website. So certainly, on a weekly basis, it's usually around lunchtime on a Friday, it'll say, here's what got done this week, here's what we intend to do next week. If there's direct impacts to residents as far as access in and out, we knock on the doors of those people and give them usually a 24 or 48-hour notice. Like everything, it's weather dependent, and you do your best to communicate, but weekly on the website is going to be your best opportunity, or you can always contact the engineering department, and whether it's the staff technician that's on it, or myself or Mark in the office, we can answer any questions.
Okay, thanks. I just know that there's going to be an awful lot of great street work going on in the city, and to keep people informed would be good. So, thank you.
And this was the project along Mississippi Boulevard where we had a lot of discussion about the striping. And the final decision on the striping is 11-foot, so two 11-foot walk bike lanes and two 11-foot driving lanes, I believe was the way that gets settled out.
That
No
is
special
correct.
markings for bikings or walkings, it'll just be the fog lines and
We added an extra foot to the parking lane and narrowed the drive lanes by a foot.
yeah, which on that street hopefully will kind of calm some of those cars. All right, any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that motion carries. And next item is consider adopt assessments for project 16-3, Minnesota State Aid Reconstruction. And this is 4 different areas. Crooked Lake Boulevard from 127th Circle to 133rd Avenue. 128th Avenue from Crooked Lake Boulevard to Coon Creek Boulevard. Mississippi Drive from Round Lake Boulevard to Pheasant Ridge Drive. And Round Lake Boulevard from Mississippi Drive to 115th Avenue.
Your Honor,
Counselor Mann.
I move adoption of resolution number 16-3 sub 12, adopting assessments for project 16-3.
I'll second that too.
Motion by Manning, second by Johnson. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that motion carries. Next item on our agenda is 17, to adopt assessments for project 16-4. This is our last one of these on the agenda tonight. And this is for 5 different streets. Egret Boulevard from Kumquat Street to University Avenue. 113th Avenue from Foley Boulevard to Northdale Boulevard, Dogwood Street from Northdale Boulevard to 115th Avenue, 115th Avenue from Dogwood Street to University Avenue, and Exeon, or Xeon, as we're learning from the residents over there. Xeon Street from 114th Avenue to Northdale Boulevard. So a lot of these are actually on that Foley project, it seems.
Yes.
All right,
Your Honor,
Counselor Johnson?
as this is a significant part of my ward, I will move adoption of resolution number 16-4, sub 12, adopting assessments for project 16-4.
Motion by Johnson, second by Wells. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that motion carries. The next item on the agenda is kind of a fun thing. It's to announce the what?
I'm sorry, there's actually, it wasn't mentioned specifically in the memo, but there's a second resolution. One of the assessments that you just adopted is gonna be posted on the board.
Okay.
There's a separate resolution for that. It is listed on the resolution 16-49. And, just wanna make sure that one gets adopted.
So, Your Honor, I would further move the resolution of 16-49 and request adoption of that as well.
Motion by Johnson, second by Wells to adopt resolution number 16-49. Now I'm gonna have to go down and see that ordinance. Postpone assessment for project 16-4. Oh, I see, okay, so this was the property that was included in the assessment roll but does not receive any benefit at this time, so it's actually just being
Right.
delayed. Okay, thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that motion carries. Now, concerts?
Thank you.
Okay. All right. So, our Arts Commission has been working hard, and they have announced our 2016 summer concert schedule, coming right on the heels of our last coffee and dessert and coffee concert last week, which was very good. So the concerts at the Dam, the summer series, will feature 9 performances, and they'll be starting on June 9th. So it'll be June 9th, 16th, 23rd, and then July 7th, 14th, 21st, 28th, and then August 4th and 11th. And we've got the TC Cats, the Naked Cowboys, I'm sure that's just a name, right? Centennial Community Band, Holy Rockarollas, Hitchville, Sam Quisisto, the New Riverside Ramblers, Gravel Roads, and Buddy and the Boys, the Buddy Holly tributes. All performances start at 7 p.m. at the Performance Pavilion at the Coon Rapids Dam. The concerts are offered at no charge to the community, and Anoka County has once again agreed to waive the parking fee during these evenings. Thank you, Commissioner. The Arts Commission would like to recognize the assistance of the Anoka County Parks and Recreation Department Rangers and other staff in presenting this series. There's a Boy Scout troop that will be selling popcorn, candy, soda, and water during the concerts. And the North Star Lions Club will be selling food items such as hamburgers, hot dogs, and brats. The Arts Commission appreciates the opportunity to continue presenting this series to the community. And the schedule has been distributed via utility bill mailings and will be in the city newsletter and on the website, so you can get that information. Questions? All right, no motion on that one, so. Item 19 is to consider adoption of resolution 16-51 authorizing the transfer of funds. And Ms. Legg, do you want to give us anything, or should I just sort of hit the highlights from your comprehensive description
Well,
of this?
Mayor and Council, basically what this resolution does is it transfers all the transfers that were required in the 2015 budget. And probably the most important one, most of them are sort of housekeeping sorts of transfers, but the most important one is that we're transferring $300,000 that we had, that we didn't need in the general fund, or that we didn't need to satisfy the 45% fund balance policy to the facility construction fund. So that's $300,000 that the facility construction fund will have to work with, which is typically what we do. Any excess funds in the general fund, we put over there for major building type projects. So the rest of them are pretty much house keeping. If there's something that you have a question on, I can probably answer it.
Okay.
Tanner,
Counselor Manning.
I move adoption of resolution 16-51.
Second.
Motion by Manning, second by Demmer, authorizing the transfer of funds. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that motion carries. Next item on our agenda is to consider a memorandum of understanding and term sheet for the Riverdale Station development. And I'm just gonna turn this over, I'll bet you to who, Mr. Brown or Mr. Fernelius?
Yeah, short presentation on this. I can start with a little bit of background. So this refers to the site, if you can picture, kind of behind Target along Northdale Boulevard, about 16 acres adjacent to the Riverdale Transit Station on the North Star line. Is owned by the Anoka County Regional Rail Authority. And the Rail Authority, of course, is comprised of the same individuals as the county board. They had purchased that site a number of years ago in anticipation of future development at the transit station. Also, several years ago, the city had adopted a master plan and rezoned the site. It had been zoned general commercial, acknowledging it's not a very good retail site. It was rezoned accordingly for residential and mixed-use development. Since the housing market has come back in the last few years, the county staff and city staff have worked to identify a potential developer for this site, and it was through that process we identified Sherman and Associates, who is very interested in doing a project there. So over the last several months, we've negotiated a multifamily residential deal for this site. It involves about 239 apartments in 2 buildings. 80% of the units would be market rate apartments. We have not seen a lot of apartment construction in this part of the metro area recently, so these will be very contemporary units with a high level of amenity and finish, would have generally higher rent levels than you'd otherwise see. 20% of the units, or 48 of them, would be affordable, would be considered affordable units. Part of the reason for that is that it brings some additional funding sources to the project, including federal tax credits and tax increment financing. I should mention that the affordable units would also have a very high level of finish and amenity and would actually have rent levels that are generally higher than what you'd see for a typical older apartment in this part of the metro area. So to talk a little bit more about the first phase of the project, the 239 apartments, that would occur on about half or 8 acres of the 16-acre site. As I mentioned, the project will qualify for federal tax credits as well as tax increment financing. The arrangement we've worked out with the county and the developer is that we would provide up to about 10 years of tax increment financing. Once we have more refined financials on the project, we'll figure out exactly what that number is and cap that so it corresponds to the actual need for gap financing. We'll also work with the developer to apply for a Metropolitan Council grant for this project in the amount of $1 million to assist with filling that gap. The first phase would also likely include a very small retail component. Like I said before, it's not a particularly good retail site, but some coffee shop or service-oriented retail that's oriented toward users of the transit station could probably do well there. Overall, this first phase would be a $51 million project. We estimate the need for tax increment financing at about $1.7 million. So overall, the public financial resources that would be going into this project If you look at that as a percentage of the total development costs, it's actually quite low in comparison with similar residential projects around the metro area. So we think overall that's a good deal. A second phase of development will be done on the remainder of the 16-acre site. Sherman is interested in doing that as well. So that would occur approximately 3 years after the first phase begins. That phase would likely include senior housing, potentially some other uses as well, but they are very interested in doing that project as well. I can talk a little bit about the conveyance of the land. As I mentioned, the Rail Authority owns the entire site right now. They would propose conveying the entire site to the city's Housing and Redevelopment Authority, and actually the HRA after this meeting will consider the same documents that you'll consider in just a few minutes. Would convey the entire site to the HRA, and simultaneously with that closing, the land for phase one, so approximately half of the site, would be conveyed from the HRA to Sherman. The other half of the site the HRA would hang on to, but Sherman would have an option to purchase it within 3 years. So the total cost for the land for phase one is $1.5 million. So Sherman would be paying that. And the land for phase two, the other half of the site, the sale price would be $800,000. And there are sufficient funds in the HRA fund to cover that for the next few years. I can talk a little bit too about the timeline. Phase one, we would expect that the closing would occur by June of next year, potentially earlier than that. Construction would begin soon thereafter and would likely be completed within about 2 years, so in about 2019. And then for phase two, construction would begin by about 2020 and wrap up by 2022. As for next steps, well, first of all, tonight, both the council and HRA are asked to consider a term sheet that outlines the basic terms of the deal. That includes the price for the land, the TIF assistance, and other procedural kinds of things. You're also asked to approve a memorandum of understanding with the Anoka County Regional Rail Authority, which also stipulates the terms on that end of the deal. Both of those documents are non-binding, acknowledging that we're still in fairly early stages of this project. As for next steps, we expect to begin hammering out a purchase agreement with the developer and also with the Rail Authority in the next couple months. We expect that you'll probably consider that by before the end of June, certainly. Also at the end of June, the developer's tax credit application is due to the state. Also around that same time, the Metropolitan Council grant application is due. So we'll have a sense by this fall of the success of both of those applications. The developer has indicated that both the Met Council and Minnesota Housing Finance Agency would view this project very favorably. So we feel pretty good about the likelihood that it will be funded by both of those agencies. So we can answer any questions, but otherwise you're asked to approve those two documents tonight.
Councilor Manning?
After, this has been a long road, obviously, for 2 years now, we've been on this, I've been on this TOD committee with Councilmember Geisler and Clint, and we've been close several times, as Commissioner Schulte can testify. I can honestly say that up till about this morning, I wasn't sure whether I was going to go ahead and vote for this or not. The reasons, I think, are probably shared by other council members, that the fact that we are being told by the Rail Authority that we have to buy a piece of land that there's no guarantee will be developed, the second half of this, which gives us some risk. Also being you know, what I thought we were being told that what we could do with the TIF. Now, I talked to Commissioner Schulte, and he explained to me that TIF for the city part is totally up to us. And that it's only the county TIF that we have to be concerned about. So that sheds a different light on it. I still don't like the idea of being told we have to buy a whole piece of land when only one part is guaranteed development, very much guaranteed development. That kind of sticks in my craw. However, after weighing all the facts, and one fact being that it's going to be good for the city, for retail, for a lot of other things, it's going to be a plus for the city. And the fact I think the risk is pretty low. The second half of that property is going to be a bargain. And I think Sherman has a very good reputation. I think there's a strong likelihood that they're going to purchase that and go ahead with the second phase. So putting all that together, I now determined that I'm going to support this because I think it's just in the best interest of the city that I do that. Well, there may be others that, let's say, would you like me to make a motion and then discuss?
It's however you'd like to do it, Mr. Manning.
Okay.
Councilor Manning, go ahead.
All right, let's see. I'm going to move approval of memorandum of understanding with Anoka County Regional Rail Authority and term sheet with Sherman Associates for a development project at Riverdale Station.
Second.
Motion by Manning and a second by Geisler. Discussion. Councilor Clint.
I too have been going back and forth on this. In the last workshop we had, I was leaning more towards no. But then an article came out in the Minneapolis Star Tribune paper about developers who had rental units in the city of Minneapolis. And Sherman had one of the highest number and the least amount of violations. And I was really impressed with that. And I know that, and I don't know if the rest of the city knows that Sherman already has rental property here in the city. It's been 30 years, 20 years. And we've never really had any complaints about that. It's always been redone, upkept, modernized when it's needed to, and putting all that together, I too am going to vote in favor of this.
Councilor Geisler.
Yeah, I would echo some of the same sentiments. I think we've been very impressed with the Sherman Associates in the buildings and are very eager to see them come to town and build them. There are a few parts of the negotiations in dealing with the county and the rail authority that were not as pleasant as I would have hoped. And for me, it's having to look past some of those frustrations with the county to know that we're getting something really good for this city. And thus I will be supporting this.
Councilor Wells.
I also struggled with this a little bit, but in the end, I think it's a quality project and it's a needed project that the citizens and lots of people are going to want this and are going to flock to this. And so I think it's good for the city, and that's what I want.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilor Johnson.
Like pretty much everybody else who's had an opportunity to speak on this issue, I have some reservations. I want to make very clear that the first phase of the project is something that I think is a really good thing for the city. And Sherman has come up with a good concept. I like them as a company. I'm pleased that they're willing to invest in the city. I'd like to see that happen. The original deal that we discussed was for Sherman to develop that first phase, the rail authority to hold on to the remaining 8 acres, and then if Sherman elected to exercise its option to develop that, then there would be a transfer of that remaining 8 acres, and then the negotiations changed. And the negotiations included requiring the city to pay an extra $800,000 to obtain that property, but with a memorandum of understanding that is now before us all, where we're agreeing to limit any potential future TIF district in that area to a 10-year TIF district. That bothers me. And, you know, I remember some of our conversations about this, and I remember some of my colleagues saying, well, maybe it would be better for us just to buy the rail authority out of this and get them out of the way. And I wish we had a better partner in the program than this. So I would like to make clear to everybody who's listening to this and to Mr. Sherman, who's here, that I'm fully supportive of the development as it goes forward. I like the concept. I like Sherman as a company, and I appreciate they're willing to invest in Coon Rapids. I wish we had a different relationship with the rail authority. That being said, I'll vote in favor of this. And what people need to understand is the city is now taking a risk on this property, and it's going to be a future development potential, and I hope things go well with Mr. Sherman's phase 1, and I hope he builds phase 2, and then I'm in full agreement with everything.
I might as well jump in. So I wanted to address a couple of things. So there is this phrase in here that there's affordable housing, and I know affordable housing can mean a lot of different things to a lot of people, and when you knock on doors, people want to understand what that means. So just the quick math, it's only 20% of the site, and the 20% to qualify for affordable housing, you have to earn 50% of the American median income. As of 2013, the American median income was around $60,000 a year. So 50% of that is people earning $30,000 a year. So that's the level of people that are going to be buying into that 20%, which I think I heard was 48 units. That's $15 an hour. So that's, you know, these are people who are working hard trying to have a place to live, and it's about a quarter of the citizens of Coon Rapids that would qualify for that level. So just want to make that clear that this is housing that's needed in Coon Rapids. And I think the other thing that's really, really interesting about it, I think that those affordable units will be some of the nicest buildings in the entire county. Not to mention how nice the market rate ones are. From what we've seen, you know, looking around the city, looking around Minneapolis, Sherman's a really well-respected company that builds really nice stuff. And so I guess my only worry is it'll make the rest of our stuff not look as good. So, you know, but certainly that's a good reason to support it. I think this brings up the quality of the housing stock in Coon Rapids. And, you know, did we get everything that we wanted? You know, of course we didn't. It's a negotiation. It's a negotiation for a reason. I'm sure the county would agree they didn't get everything they wanted, which even serves more to complement the very hard work that the negotiators had to walk the line, getting something that was agreeable. When for a long time it looked like there would be no overlap of agreement. That said, if we had to chip in some money to make it work, I'd rather get land chipping in the money than get nothing chipping in the money. So now we have a parcel of land. There's risk that we won't be able to make it work, but it's now completely under our control, and that's worth something too. So is it the ultimate deal we want? No, but I think we get a really great chance to work with a really great developer, get some really good buildings. And you know, their track record speaks for themselves. It's certainly a risk I'm willing to take with that kind of track record. So if they believe this is going to fill up and it's going to serve a niche that Coon Rapids doesn't have, which right now, to be honest, you know, really nice apartments potentially for millennials is something we're lacking. And hopefully this really does fill that in. So, you know, everyone did their best to get the best deal they could, and we certainly appreciate that. And I'm in support, and I can't wait to see how nice the apartments are.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilor Johnson?
I'd like to just say one more thing, and that is, you know, had staff not worked so hard on this, to put this concept together, which is what we asked staff to do at our retreat this last winter, and had Mr. Sherman not come to the table with a good concept, and had Mr. Schulte not worked, frankly, through some difficult issues with the rail authority and helped us get a 10-year tax increment financing district in this area and that potential, and yet there were strings attached, as they are kind of now, had not all those things come together, I wouldn't find myself supportive of this. So it's really out of respect for all the work that you've all done that I can say that I think this is a good deal all around. Thank you.
I just want to also mention that the phase 2 that we were talking about, as it stands right now, looks like it'll be senior housing. So not only will the millennials, the me generation, the baby boomers.
But their parents.
The baby boomers, the giving generation, will have something to look forward to also if they want to stay in the city. And with the demographics changing in Coon Rapids, we're going to be needing more senior housing.
I'll do my best to stay off your lawn.
All right. Any other comments from council? All right, well, I'm not going to start repeating because there was just about everything that I would have said has been said already. This was a very tough decision. I mean, it was like I'd leave the meeting and I'd be, yes, this is the way to go, and then I'd end up not sleeping all night, walking around going, oh my gosh, another apartment, really? But this is unlike any other apartment building we have in town. I mean, it's going to be a different level. It's going to be granite countertops, stainless steel appliances. It's going to be top of the line finishings, appointments, and a little segment of retail. It should be very nice, and it's going to fill a need that we don't have. So I will be supporting this, and then just praying that it goes well. And it really did come down to, and it's been said so many times, but I have to say it again, is the quality of the developer. The Sherman Associates, they already have a building in Coon Rapids. As Councilor Klin said, they just went through several years ago, and without anybody asking them to do it, put literally millions of dollars into completely updating it because they're good citizens, they want to maintain good tenants, and so I'm supportive of this, and I will be voting yes. Anything else, or are we ready to vote? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that motion carries. Thank you. All right. We are up to the open mic public comment. So let me just read the introduction here. Open mic provides an opportunity for the public to address the city council on subjects that are not part of the regular meeting agenda. The public is invited to express any concerns they may have which are relevant to the affairs, policies, or practices of the city of Coon Rapids. Remarks will be limited to 3 minutes. Should you wish to participate in open mic, please approach the podium and state your name and address before addressing the council. All remarks will be made from the podium and addressed to the council as a whole. Personal attacks are, of course, prohibited. Open mic is not a time for problem solving or reacting to the comments made, but for hearing the speaker for informational purposes only. Questions, if there are any questions from council, will be for clarification only. If necessary, a staff report will be prepared for the next regular council meeting with a copy forwarded to the speaker. And with that, we'll open up open mic for who would like to address council. Please approach the podium and give us your name and address. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm Jennifer Cook. I live at 2020 127th Avenue Northwest. And I am here because last week I was looking through the emails that are already open on our computer, and I was going through deleting them, so I didn't have a million of them on there. And I came across this email from you, Mayor Cook, and it had to do with having a flea market on the open land across from the old City Hall. And this email led me to believe that the city of Coon Rapids was not interested in doing something like this. That it would mean like an expense to the city, like maybe having to hire other people and stuff. I understand that. And it also said that maybe someone, an organization, person, would be interested in hosting it on that land until some form of construction starts on it. Well, I was reading this and all of a sudden my eyes went hey, I'll run the flea market. I have a lot of experience in organizing and setting up and publicizing events. I've done it over the last 20-some years. And so I thought, I will do that. And in the same time, I would not only do a flea market, which is to me like a group of garage sales, because people love that, there's all kinds of stuff, but I'd also add the farmer's market in there, and it would be one big happy family of people trying to sell some of their things. I know there's a lot of traffic on, Coon Rapids Boulevard, and because of that, people will stop because people love garage sales at flea markets. Last week I was in Target and I was waiting to check out, and all of a sudden because I'm so shy, I said, what do you guys, what would you think about a flea market in Coon Rapids? And the person, of course, said, well, yeah, that'd be great. Well, I thought that was great, so as I was going over to my bank, I just kind of said to the gals, do you think a flea market would work here in Coon Rapids? And they went, oh, of course it would. Then at church on Sunday after the service, I'm standing out there talking to people and asked them, do you like garage sales, flea markets and such? And of course they all went, well, yeah. And then we went over to BK and had breakfast, and as some of the people came walking out, just kind of, once again, my shyness happened. And I said, do you think, a flea market would work here? And one of the gals said, of course, I love flea markets. And she spends the winter in Phoenix. And she said, I go to that Phoenix flea market all the time. So I'm going, well, that's great. And I thought, I remember when I was younger, and I'm from Buffalo, Minnesota, and I remember going to a flea market in Monticello that had like a huge building, and it pretty much ran all winter. And then in the summertime when it was nice out, then they also were outside. I thought, that's amazing, I love that.
Are we
And
going
then
to the end, Mrs. Cook? I'm sorry, we're over 3 minutes here.
Can I just finish, please?
I was just seeing if we're getting close.
Because I'm almost there.
Well, that's all I wanted to know. Thank you.
Okay. And Annandale has a fantastic flea market. It's packed all the time on the weekends. Well, I just want to tell you why it would be beneficial, and then I will say thank you. Not only would the people who are in the flea market do a great, make some money or something, but the town merchants would too. When you go to those places, if you're not familiar with it, you go to the stores to check out what's there. You get gasoline. You go to a restaurant if you haven't, set up a stand for food and eaten there. Everyone, for the most part, would benefit from this. So I would appreciate a response from you soon, because it would run in June, July, and August on the weekends. And those months are great for flea markets. The time is to start right now. Thank you. I also have, in case you would like to do that and approve it, this is what, just like an authorization that it would be okay. In writing. Thank you.
Anybody else for open mic?
Jerry Pierce, 12236 Partridge Street, Coon Rapids, Minnesota. I've always liked to deal in facts. It's going to be easy for our clerk to look up the day that the vote was taken on the $60 million white elephant. Our former mayor, Tim Howe. We had a lineup around here, everybody went and got their turn to talk. I brought up the fact, and I asked the mayor, she can check on the minutes, the exact words. I said, Mayor, what name is gonna go on that building? Fulton and Howe, or Howe and Fulton? But Mayor, underneath the door, you better put, how the hell are we gonna pay for it? And I was done. The mayor said, Mr. Pierce, he says, excuse me. Mr. Pierce, I'll tell you what. If this building doesn't go tonight, he says, I promise you, you will get a flea market where it was, and we're gonna name it after you. Now what doesn't the council? The mayor seems to have all the say. I haven't heard a council member answer anything. Because Howe had to say, now Cook has got to say. But I'll tell you what, there are a lot of people that want a flea market. And I think this is a city of the people and what the people want. So I think some consideration should be gone to it. And I would like to have the mayor order the city clerk to look up the date on when that happened and bring back the minutes and see if the exact words weren't spoken by Jerry Pierce. Mayor, council, staff, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Pierce.
You got a question?
Nope, I said thank you, Mr. Pierce. Anybody else for addressing open mic tonight?
I got a sore throat, otherwise I'd be up talking. I think you can read.
Yes, ma'am.
Jill Bjorn, 2919 115th Lane. I'm here to speak regarding my disappointment of the actions of the mayor and some city council members. I want to remind you that most of you were elected by the people of Coon Rapids and should represent all of Coon Rapids, not only select residents. What was found on a social media page made my stomach sink, as I am a resident and a taxpayer. My opinion counts just as much as my neighbors. Elected officials and the public should be working together to make an amazing city, not just subpar. There are several areas of the city that needs to be focused on. Coon Rapids Boulevard, one of those. Focusing on one issue, non-issue, and being biased on it is not the right way to handle things. I will be speaking out against this again the next council session, as it is not where tax dollars should be spent. I remind you, you are the voice of the people, all of the people of Coon Rapids, to be respectable and dignified officials. I have a handout here from what I saw on social media today. The first part of it will show my comments. The next part shows what is making me upset. It was a letter that the mayor wrote, and I've put this on social media and tagged the city of Coon Rapids.
Very good, thank you. Anybody else here for council or for open mic? All right, well, with that, we will close the open mic portion of the meeting. Lost my notes. We don't have any reports from previous council meetings or for open mics. Other business, council.
Your Honor,
Councilor Manning.
I don't know if anybody else having this problem or not, but the Star Tribune has an extra something that they're putting in plastic bags and dropping off at certain houses on Sundays. The problem is they're dropping them off in the gutter. And every week when my wife and I take a walk, we go along, pick up the papers and put them into the paper boxes. We're hoping we're getting them in the right ones. But is anybody else seeing this in their neighborhood? Or is it just a certain carrier that's doing this? Because it really looks trashy. It's littering the streets.
Mr. Stemwedel has his hand up over there, or are you just resting your elbow?
Councilmember Manning and the rest of the city council. So this is good timing, I guess, that Dave and I have been talking about this recently. Again, it's certainly something that's come up a few times. Councilmember Johnson has brought it up. We've actually looked, well, I'll let you explain from here maybe.
A couple of things. So I just sort of was looking around what other cities have done to deal with this. It isn't just an issue here in Coon Rapids, it's an issue across the metro here and really across the country. It seems in here, though, in Coon Rapids, an issue regarding this particular newspapers on the weekend. Other cities also have problems with door hangers and all kinds of other issues. And so we've been putting together sort of what other cities have responded to. What we've found is our very city to the south, Spring Lake Park, has actually enacted an ordinance to deal directly with this issue. I did have a conversation with their chief building officials, also their code enforcement officer, and the ordinance actually has worked. And basically what they do is it works in the sense that if they do get a few complaints, they'll send a letter down to the Star Tribune, to their management department, and say, hey, this is going on. It seems to work then for several months, and then it does come back. They seem to at least have a way to address it. It seems to be better than it was before. So again, I had that conversation literally, I think on Monday with them. And so we're sort of putting together something to present here to the council to sort of address that, whether it's by ordinance, maybe it's just being more aggressive in contacting Star Tribune, since they seem to be the ones who are the center of the issue here in town. Or like you said, do we need to do an ordinance, or are there some other alternatives that would work as well? Certainly people can call and sort of unsubscribe to it or opt out of that. I don't know how successful that would be, but it's only on an individual basis, so there are options. So staff is working on it. We're, I think, putting it more, it's maybe down on the back burner. I think it's now, Councilmember Johnson had contacted us maybe a month or so ago, or maybe a month and a half ago, and now you're bringing it up, kind of move it to the front of the stove and see if we can get something to council.
Well, if the regular carriers can stick it in the paper box, there's no reason why these people that are bringing the, whatever it is, because it says Star Tribune in a plastic bag, why they can't put it in a paper box also.
Mr. Mayor? I think the problem really becomes much more acute in the spring, because what we find, unfortunately, in our city, even when we have a strange winter like we had, is that with the snow melt, all of a sudden you find that there are a few that just escape people from picking them up, and they start appearing in lawns and in gutters and things like that. And I would encourage staff to keep working on it. I think it has become a bit of a problem in the city. I expect it's also sometimes a bit of a problem because some of these things really do get literally washed into the storm sewer and down the drain. So to the extent we can support whatever ordinance or policy we would like to set in place with some of those issues and problems, I encourage staff to keep moving forward on it. Thank you.
Other business? Councilor Clint?
I have two things. First, I just want to give praise again for the parks brochure that was sent out. I've gotten so many people telling me that that's just the greatest thing we've ever sent out. So I just kudos to that, because it was really, really nice. And then I see Mr. Anderson here, and I'm just wondering if we can get an update on how the golf course is going this spring.
Certainly, thank you, Mayor, Councilmember Clint. This is a great time of year. I mean, every day we get more green and more radiant, and trees are budding, and I have nothing but good news to report. All four of the high school teams that practice at Bunker Hills are out practicing and playing and competing, and that's always a sign of spring and a good one. There's been a few years recently where they really didn't get out because we had snow so deep into the spring, but this year we've had quite the opposite, so it's been wonderful. The patios are open. The new outdoor eatery, Molly's Tap Shack, is open. So whether you're coming to golf or eat or gather, we've got something for everybody, and we're fully ready to take care of folks. So come on out. Thank you.
Mr. Hammer, do you want to cover the skating through Candyland? Or you want me to do it?
You're welcome to. I was going to let everyone finish, and if they didn't hit on the few items I had, then I would fill it in.
Oh, so all right, we'll finish then, and then we'll come back to you. Councilor Demmer.
I just want to recognize a couple of citizens of Coon Rapids. So yesterday was the 120th running of the Boston Marathon, and we had 2 citizens from Coon Rapids complete it, both in under 4 hours, which is pretty amazing. So if you see Rochelle Paulson or Liza Jenkins hobbling around this week, give them a high five. And then second, I decided to just look up, now that it's almost a little late because this is last year, but in 2015, citizens of Coon Rapids contributed 100 patents to the United States Patent Office. So that's just a really cool thing to know that we live in, and just so you understand how smart some of these guys are. Using focal myocardial stimulation to distinguish supraventricular tachycardia from ventricular tachycardia. That's one. Field interchangeable bore site mounting system and calibration method.
You're not reading all 100 though, right? Okay.
And neurostimulator for treating occipital neuralgia with housing sized and curved to conform a subcutaneous neck region are just 3 of the 100 things our citizens came up with this year and added to the canon of knowledge. And as you can tell, a lot of those are biomedical, based on our biomedical industry around there. So not just the canon of knowledge, but also the canon of treatment for people who suffer from various things. Not all of them were biomedical. There were lots of industries that were covered, but they have the most fun names to read. So again, congratulations to all the 100 patents.
Well, wasn't one of those firearms related?
No, it was it was a different kind of bore site. Although I wouldn't have been surprised if the federal cartridge had some too. So. I just picked the ones with the longest names for fun.
And then practice them.
A little.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Johnson.
I want people to know that, especially those that either live or own property along the Mississippi River or near the Mississippi River, to know that the DNR is right now seeking comments on proposed rules for the Mississippi River Corridor critical area. And this is a set of rules that would apply along the Mississippi River all the way up through Anoka and all the way down past Hastings. And in particular, it's going to impact some of our city's abilities to zone and permit items for buildings and conduct other activities within that critical corridor area. And it's very important right now for people to be paying attention to it if that's something that concerns you. Wednesday, June 15th at 4:30 at Greenhaven Golf Course Event Center in Anoka is a meeting where the DNR will take comments there. You can also send comments in through the Minnesota Office of Administrative Hearings, and you can find those links to the DNR website. And I think I'll comment on this as the June 15th day gets a little closer to, so people can remember it. But these are rules that will significantly impact the way people conduct activities within that critical corridor area. And I think it's important for citizens who are interested in it or might be impacted to express their concerns and to look for the proposed rules on the DNR's website.
I just have, let's see here. We have the Green Expo coming up Saturday. I'll bet that was on your list if it didn't get caught up. So is that like 9 to 2 or something?
Yes.
Yes.
So 9 to 2 over at the Blaine, the National Sports Center in Blaine. And let's see, so we've got the Cinderella play coming up at Coon Rapids High School this weekend, and the play The Foreigner over at Anoka Ramsey Community College. That should be really good. We've got the ice show Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and it must be about the 27th or something. And it's called Skating Through Candyland, and that's always a very, very good show. I think it's 7 o'clock Thursday night and Friday night, and 2 o'clock Saturday and Sunday afternoons. Okay. And I was going to ask about Bunker Hill, so I'm glad you covered that. Anything else from up here? Anything we missed, Mr. Himmer? Oh, all right. We'll give Mr. Stemwell an opportunity to get anything else you've got left. All right.
Then you can. Mayor and Council, I was just going to mention that tomorrow night it might be of interest for the citizens who are watching at home or in the audience that the assessing department will host an informational meeting to talk about their property value. So if they have any questions about how those values were arrived at, property taxes, all those sorts of things, it's just an informational session. It's not to appeal or anything formal of that nature, but just an information session. And I think most of the time people find those very helpful when they can kind of open the book and look at why their property is assessed a certain way and how we arrive at their tax bill.
It is. Ned does a very good job presenting I'm not sure if Ned will be doing the presentation, but it is interesting because home values always follow the curve of the real estate market. You know, because they look at the value of like January of this year to establish the value out the next year. So people always go, oh, my house should be worth this much. Well, it probably is, but your assessed value is based on data that was 6 months old at the time we were looking at it a year ago. So, yeah, it'll be an interesting class, and Ned kind of gives you a little overview of the market. And
What time is that?
It's at 7 o'clock here at City Hall, tomorrow the 20th.
probably in council chambers? Or?
Council chambers, I would, yes.
Okay.
I'd imagine.
All right. Mr. Hammer, anything on your list we missed?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, just I believe it's on your radars now. May 9th, Monday night, the next Park and Rec Commission meeting. That's our annual tour of the parks. Council is invited to attend, partake in that. Again, that's Monday, May 9th. Was with Anoka County talking Burlington, Northern Santa Fe, Hanson Railroad Crossing. Their monthly newsletter update will be hitting their website probably within a week or so. Right now they're planning for the second informational meeting, which was originally going to be mid-May, but we are pushing that back to the first week in June. So right now it's Wednesday, June 6th. I will remind you about that later. It will be conducted at Epiphany as well. We think by delaying, it will help us, number one, be in a better position to have new information to share. It's just a quick turnaround to digest all of the individual comments and look for some potential revisions that could be done. And number two, I will cross my fingers that that's the end of the legislative session, and we'll certainly understand where the state bonding bill may fall. So June 8th is the tentative date. If there are any concerns from all of you that would like to attend, I would like to know that, say, by early morning tomorrow. Otherwise, I need to turn that over to the county and they can start putting together their information. But all the information is on the website. There is a monthly newsletter. It is only done via digital format. There are no mailings that go out to individuals, but you can check that off the county website. And there's a link off the city website to that as well.
Chief Piper, any update on our funding for that bridge?
Mayor, council members, I've been doing a little bit of checking, and the best I can say now is that we're hoping that we'll have information on the bonding in the House within the next week to 10 days and the Senate shortly thereafter. So my optimism continues that the remaining $12.6 million for our Hanson grade separation will be successful. But like anything else, the session is over on May 23rd, and we'll know for sure by then.
All right. Yes.
Mr. Mayor, the city is looking for election judges, so if anybody is interested in serving, you can call City Hall and ask for the clerk's office or send an email to clerk@coonrapidsmn.gov.
Excellent. And that would be probably for the primary in August and November.
That's correct.
All right. Any other business?
Second.
Motion by Demers, second by Gadsler to adjourn. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.
Hey, Tom, didn't